Hello, and thank you very much for joining us on the Fight and Talk 2 podcast with myself, Mr. Fight and Talk, joined as always by Prath and George. How are we doing, boys? All good?
All good, mate. Thank you.
Good. Are you excited for tomorrow? That's the main question. Are you excited? Are you as pumped as I am? I was sat on the sofa earlier, going absolutely crazy watching these promo videos, going absolutely crazy watching the weigh-ins, the ceremonial weigh-ins, the live weigh-ins, even from the prelims all the way up. I was just super excited about the whole thing. Prath, what did you see, man?
Oh man, I've been really struggling to get into the fight week during these COVID era fights, and it's been tough for me to get the excitement building up. And I find like usually when the ceremonial weighing kicks in and you watch the crowd and they're going wild, that's kind of where the excitement comes in. And I couldn't contain my excitement for tomorrow. Sorry, Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier. I'm losing my mind. I was going for a walk earlier whilst I was watching some of that weigh-in stuff, going back and forth with you fine gentlemen as well. And so I was watching all the prelim fighters come out for the ceremonial weigh-ins, and I was like walking, and all of a sudden it got to the co-main event and main event fights, and I had to stop. I had to stop on the middle of the road. I was like literally like at a junction waiting to cross, and I was like, okay, I need to just stop and take this all in, and sat there on my phone and watched it, and I was so hyped. Oh my God. When those guys faced off, it was literally like, it kind of gave me chills in a little way, because obviously like these guys have fought before. They kind of know, like, I really love what Connor said in the face off, like, you know what's in there, because we've both gone in there. We've had that experience before. And for me, the face off was just kind of like, hey, we've gone through that. This is the next stage of this kind of battle, whether it ends up being a trilogy or a battle or a 3 fights. Like I just felt the confidence coming, radiating off of both guys. And I was saying to the guys earlier that I thought that Dustin looked a bit tired coming onto the scales, looked a little bit maybe drained coming onto the scales. He then put out a tweet after he had the weigh-ins and said he was feeling great, and he had just come out of the sauna, so he's feeling a little bit off, but feels good. And when he came in for the actual ceremonial weigh-ins, my doubt was completely wiped away, because he looked incredible. He looked ready. I think one thing that's really key is looking in both of their eyes when they're facing off, and they both look just so ready to go. And the respect is there. I love the hot sauce handover. I was hoping that he would have had a proper 12. That would have been a beautiful little exchange of gifts there. But man, I'm so excited. I cannot wait. I'm not going to be able to go to sleep tonight.
It's going to be absolutely crazy. And exactly like you say, man, when I was seeing the little exchange of hot sauce, I don't know if it's because obviously Abu Dhabi, Dubai and stuff like that, it's quite difficult to get alcohol in. I don't know, maybe if maybe Connor had a little bit of a struggle getting his own product in through customs or something like that. But I've never tried proper 12. Either of you tried it?
Not yet.
No?
Not yet.
Okay.
I think that's got to be for the first one. When we get together, we've got to crack open a bottle of proper 12.
That's it. When we can get out of lockdown, we'll all crack a bottle of that and a couple of George's beers as well. George, what's your kind of pre-fight? Have you got any rituals that you do pre-fight? Do you kind of get into the zone? Do you order a certain kind of a food? Do you have a couple of beers? What's your plan? Because I know you're not going to be staying up for this fight card, are you? Are you going to be sleeping and waking up, or what's your plans?
I will definitely be sleeping and waking up. I can't do an all-nighter. I think I might be the youngest out of the 3 of us, and I ain't got a hope in hell of staying up all night. So I'll be in bed probably about 8 o'clock tomorrow night. And I'll be up at about 1 o'clock in the morning, raring to go, because there is nothing like a Conor McGregor fight night. It's the biggest event in sport, let's be honest. And I'll argue with anybody about anything else. It's the biggest night, so I can't wait. I've been driving around today, making my deliveries, listening to the Foggy Dew all day long. I can't wait for it, man. This is incredible. They both look incredible. They both look amazing. They look in such good shape. I saw a photo earlier from when Conor fought Khabib on the scales to Conor today. Man, he looks insane. I don't know what nutritionist he's got in now, but he looks incredible. And Dustin does as well, to be fair. He looks like he's raring to go. But yeah, there's something about a Conor McGregor fight night, isn't there? With 24 hours to go now, it's just the excitement is palpable. You just can't stop thinking about it. You just can't wait for the music to start, and then just to witness him walk in, and the whole experience of it all is something to behold. So yeah, can't wait for tomorrow night. Bring it on. The quicker 3 o'clock in the morning rolls around, the better, because I just can't wait to see these two guys go to war.
Yeah, absolutely. And fingers crossed, we've got a bit of action as well. If it's going to be like Wednesday's card, where we've got a bit of a slow start and a bit of a few barn burner fights on the way up. But as long as we can go straight in and have action, no matter what that may be, if it goes to decision and it's full action, I'm all for it. But it's when you get them sleeper fights that you just think, come on, let's just get to the main card now. You know, it's hard to keep your eyes open, but I think it's going to be super exciting, man. I think it's going to be everything everyone dreams it will be. And if anything, I hope it goes a little bit longer than the first fight. I hope it goes into those 3 and then the third round and then into the championship rounds. You know, I really want to see how Conor McGregor's gas tank stands up against Dustin. Dustin's got a very good gas tank. He's fought a lot of 5-round fights over the past couple of years as well. I really want to see this go into deep water. And, you know, I think Chad Mendes was the only person to ever make Conor bleed, you know? So will we see him bleed tomorrow? I don't know, you know? The awkward guard of Dustin, is Conor going to be able to slip under that, maybe work the body? Obviously, John Kavanagh said about working out of orthodox, which is obviously not how Conor McGregor usually stands. He's usually in southpaw, obviously, but he said that, well, we don't know if it's mind games. I saw a few conspiracy theories saying that John Kavanagh might have said, oh yeah, we've been working out with orthodox, but... And then he said, oh, delete that to Ariel Helwani, didn't he? But then obviously Ariel didn't delete it. Is that a mind game that he's going to be playing with Dustin to make him think that he's going to come out like that? Is he going to knock him out from orthodox and then he's going to have had a southpaw and an orthodox knockout over this guy? It's crazy. Prath, how do you see it going, man? What's your predictions for the fight? Where do you want to see it go?
I mean, I think I've been pretty all over the place with the picks, unlike these other two gentlemen who seem to be quite locked in with their picks. Look, I really love both fighters. I think both fighters are incredible. As much as I would really love to just sit on the fence and say, hey, let's see an incredible fight, I'm going to kind of be pulling for Dustin here. I love everything that Dustin's about. I think his whole, the way that he conducts himself, the way that he has kind of taken the losses and come back from it and become a stronger fighter, a better fighter, knocking out Justin Gaethje, knocking out Eddie Alvarez, knocking out these legends, taking punishment in these fights, coming back as well. I think that's just the true mark of an incredible mixed martial artist. And though Conor has been able to come in and do damage and get people out of there quickly, including Dustin Poirier in their first fight, I just feel like Dustin has evolved so much over that time. His skill level has increased dramatically. And I think that through going through the wars that he's gone through against Justin, against Dan Hooker, against Eddie Alvarez in those two fights as well, I feel like he's learned a lot about himself. I feel like he's going to be a bit more patient. He's going to be a bit more, and he's given McGregor the respect as well. He's looked at McGregor and said, "Hey, look, you've got a lot of power, and you're accurate, and you can take me out with one shot if you really wanted to." But now he's cognizant of that. And now because he's been in there, he knows which strategy to go with. And I just feel like the adjustments will be too much, but also wouldn't be disappointed if Conor wins. Obviously, again, European fighter, we pull for them. We want them to do well. So, but my heart says Dustin. My head probably says Conor.
Yeah, I get that. So are you going to be putting any bets on tomorrow night, or are you going to stay clear of that kind of stuff?
Well, I used to place a lot of bets back in the day, UFC 200, UFC 205, but I've had a couple of really heartbreaking L's. So unfortunately, the betting, yeah, man. So I play around a little bit on Verdict when I get a chance, but usually I try and keep my money to myself.
Yeah, fair enough. And for anyone that doesn't know what Verdict is, obviously I use Verdict as well. I think it's fantastic. You make the pick. And it's just a point system. You get a couple of points, and then you get matched up against, you get scored up against other people around the world. I think it's a really cool app. It's a really cool kind of like thought that someone had and thought, you know what, I don't want to make any money from this. Maybe a little bit from advertising or something, but just to keep the MMA community, pitting against each other. I think it's amazing, man. So if you had to put a tenner on, you're going to go Dustin, but are you going to go Dustin for the win, or are you going to go Dustin in a certain round? Do you think it goes the distance? Do you think he gets the sub? A lot of people are thinking that Dustin's going to go for more of a wrestling background, go for more of a wrestling go straight in for the wrestling, basically.
I think that he would be smart to try and wrestle Conor even just a little bit, just to have it in his head. I do see this going to decision. I do see Conor kind of really early in the fight being able to put the pressure on and maybe hit him with a couple of really good shots. Whether Dustin then recovers from that and kind of builds back a little bit stronger in those later rounds, I kind of do see a little bit of a decision, maybe 3 rounds to 2 for Dustin, maybe taking some of those later rounds, maybe picking up an early round. I do think it's going to be an absolute war though. Like, even if it is a quick finish and, you know, it's in the first round, second round, third round, I think it's going to be an absolute brutal fight between the two. And I think they're both coming to fight. They both come in to look to knock each other out. So let's go.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. George, you're obviously in the McGregor fanboy camp with myself, you know, but how have you got him? How have you got him winning? How do you think it goes down? Do you think he was very he stays in his taekwondo stance anyway. He threw a lot of kicks against Cerrone. He obviously caught him with a lot of shoulder strikes as well. The shoulder strikes are going to play a big play in this in his approach to winning this fight as well. I think, you know, he had a lot of success with them in the past. George, how do you see it going, man?
It's like McGregor said. There's levels to this game, and as much as Poirier's improved, McGregor is still levels above Poirier, unfortunately. And I think it'll go longer for sure, but round 3, maybe round 2, possibly. I think Dustin's going to find out that he's good, but he's not quite on McGregor's level. And the one thing, right, is in the last 6 years, Dustin has improved so much. His all-round game has become so much better. But there's one problem that Dustin has. He's hittable. And McGregor, when he lands, he's going to find it. I think it's going to be a problem for Dustin. And for that reason, I just can't look past McGregor. As much as I am slightly in that kind of McGregor fanboy club, I just think there's going to come a time tomorrow night where Dustin's going to get hit hard, and it's going to be like, oh man, this is like 6 years all over again. And I think as well that there's been times, like you mentioned it earlier, like about the kind of way they got face to face, and they said, like when McGregor said to him, you know what this is, and the simple fact is, he wasn't like, you know what this is time to fight now. He's saying, you know what this is. This is me big brothering you yet again. I'm going to big brother you tomorrow night. It happened 6 years ago, and I'm going to do it to you tomorrow night again. And that's how I see it going. Look, don't get me wrong. Dustin could drag him into deep water in later rounds and actually give him a genuine problem. You could see that happening. It's not impossible. And there is question marks over McGregor's gas tank, which I think is a myth, but people like to have it as a narrative to make the fight more interesting. But I just think that this guy, he looks so laser focused, McGregor. He looks like the guy from 2016. He looks completely ready to come back and put Poirier away and put anybody else away to make sure that he becomes lightweight champion. I genuinely believe. I didn't see the pandemic coming, but I didn't really believe last year after the Cerrone fight that he would do it. And I haven't believed in the last few years that he'd stick around, but I really think he's going to stick around, and I really think he's going to prove to everybody, you know, about who Conor McGregor really is. And like he keeps on saying as well, he keeps on saying that I've got the money, I've got all the fame, I've got all of that already. I'm here for highlights now. Tomorrow night, I'm expecting a highlight. If he genuinely believes it, then let's see the masterpiece. Let's see it happen. And so, yeah, McGregor is going to fit Dustin Poirier in round 3 tomorrow night.
And the one thing you missed is that he hasn't got any fucking hair now. He's bald now. And no one's... We've seen
McGregor.
Little rat tail in his early career. We've seen him slick back when he fought Cerrone. We've seen him put various different lengths of hair, but we've never seen bald Conor McGregor. You know, that is a different beast. That is a different animal.
There's some people there's people here as well that when the big lights shine, they perform at their best. And McGregor is the ultimate epitome of that human being. There's been like these question marks over the last few weeks. Is he going to be a bit rusty because he's been out for a whole year and Dustin's fought in that time? It doesn't matter for McGregor, I don't think. When the lights come on and he's told he's got to perform, he always usually does. I can't think of a time where you thought, oh, this guy hasn't really done it tonight. he's always put on a performance, and I think tomorrow night will be exactly the same.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. No, I'm in, like I say, man, I'm in the Conor McGregor fanboy club. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, like I say, I like watching people fight. I don't get too involved emotionally in these fighters, but I would very much like Conor McGregor to win because of what he's done for the sport. What the ceiling for what he can do for the sport as well is humongous. You know, Dana was saying that the pay-per-views are going to be record breaking. Once again, a Conor McGregor card is going to be record breaking. You know, and the amount of people that weren't MMA fans before, maybe they were boxing fans or like kickboxing, Muay Thai, whatever, that are coming over to MMA, it's just huge. It's absolutely huge. And you think 5, 6, 7 years ago, MMA Twitter was a thing, cool, but there was probably like 12 people on there. But now you have this platform where you can connect with people all over the world and all over the country and have conversations about what you love doing. And I think Conor McGregor played a massive part in that, you know. But before we get to the McGregor fight, we have the entrance of Michael Chandler versus Dan Hooker. You know, on the press conference, they both looked very, very calm, cool, collected. Dan Hooker was saying, you know, no one wanted to take this fight. Charlie Olives didn't want to take this fight, so I took this fight. It's the biggest risk for anyone. I don't mind. I'll take it. I'm not going to do a New Zealand accent, but he is the worst stylistic matchup for Chandler, I think, you know. I've been watching a lot of highlights of Chandler as well. He's got some one-punch bang power. Like, the guy can hit. But so can Hooker. You know, we saw Dustin versus Hooker last year. That was an absolute war, you know, and it's one of my favorite fights. But Prath, what do you think about the co-main? Where do you think it going? Where do you think it starts going? Sorry. And who do you think takes it and why? You know, obviously there's a lot of question marks around Chandler coming into the UFC and fighting people that are just that level above. What do you think?
It's the age-old question of, does a Bellator fighter do good in the UFC? And we've seen quite a few examples of that. Eddie Alvarez, another one that I always really think about, and just I'm really sad that his career went downhill, was Will Brooks. Will Brooks was such a touted prospect coming out of Bellator into the UFC and ended up going on a really like soul-crushing run, man. So that was really tough to watch. Now, bearing that in mind, I read a tweet from Ariel earlier who said that the Bellator fighters who had come over to UFC and gone for championships were 6-3 at the moment. That was the record: 6 wins, 3 losses. Wow. Sorry, 5 wins, 3 losses. And Michael Chandler would look to eventually make that 6-3, right? Mm-hmm. And so I find it an interesting fight. I think Hooker is definitely an amazing elite competitor in the lightweight division. I think we were saying earlier in one of the other podcasts that I think Rafael dos Anjos would have been a really good fight for Michael Chandler to come in on. And I think you're both absolutely right, where Dan Hooker is going to be one of the worst matchups that he could potentially have. 6 foot, you know, over 6 foot, the dangerous knees on the takedowns. You've seen him take out, you know, Ross Pearson and Jim Miller with knees coming off of takedowns. And I think that's, you know, may not be Michael Chandler's entire game, but I think that is a very big part of his game. Look to maybe throw a 1-2 to a takedown. And I think that Hooker has great distance management, but also just timing. And I think he's going to be able to time Chandler on a knee coming in. And I think it's going to be brutal, but I think also that, you know, I think Michael Chandler will probably fight back. So I do see maybe Dan Hooker getting a TKO win here. But I do see Michael Chandler actually, you know, being able to survive and maybe take a shot or two that's maybe heavy from Dan Hooker. You know, I think the thing about it as well is if he came into the UFC maybe a little bit earlier when he had stopped taking as many losses, like he lost to Pitbull as one of his last fights on the UFC, in Bellator. The last 2 fights before he came over to Bellator were a declining Benson Henderson, and Sydney Outlaw, who is a little bit more of an unknown name. So I'm interested to see, and I think, again, we're going to get one of those age-old questions answered, which is, how did the Bellator fighters do in the UFC? For me personally, I really like the idea of Pitbull eventually getting in there and seeing how he does in the 155 division, because I think I think he, out of all of the other Bellator fighters that we've seen so far, is one of the more elite ones, along with Michael Chandler. So it's an incredible fight, man. I think Dan Hooker takes a TKO here, but I do think Chandler gives him hell for it. Nice.
So, like we said before, if you have £100, you're putting £100 on it. You're going with Dan Hooker, TKO, first, second, or third?
I'm going to say the third round. I think he's going to take. I think it's going to be back and forth in the first round. You know, obviously them feeling each other out, trying to get the distance right. I think Michael Chandler needs to make sure he can get his entries in there without feeling the knee coming. But I think if Dan Hooker floats that knee out there early enough, he can really disrupt Michael Chandler's pace, his flow. And I think that will ultimately lead to Michael Chandler losing himself in that cage. I think what's going to happen here is Dan's going to really make him feel uncomfortable, and I think Michael's going to be fighting off the back foot and trying to implement his game, but on a brick wall known as Dan Hooker. I just think Dan has got so many tools. I think he's pretty decent off his back and he's pretty decent from takedown positions as well. I feel like even if Chandler is able to get him down, I think Dan Hooker can use the elbows and he can get up quite easily. So I'm going to be interested to see what happens here. And obviously, with most fights, it's whoever can implement their game first. But let's see how it goes. But Dan Hooker, third round TKO for me, my man.
Nice. And it's a shame that it's not a co-main that's 5 rounds as well, because obviously we don't know what's going to happen. Someone could come out and start him in the first 10 seconds, but it would be nice to have them both, you know, the war that we all want it to be and that we all expect it to be coming, you know, from Dan Hooker, then we want it to be 5 rounds. You know, you want it to be an absolute slugfest as well. George, how you got it going, man?
Well, it's a fight that Michael Chandler can't afford to lose, simply because if he loses, he's out the title race already. So his move to the UFC becomes slightly pointless. So yeah, he's got no choice but to win against Hooker. Unfortunately, I don't think he will win against Hooker. I think he'll finish him in the third round by TKO as well. It's a pretty standard. Hooker wants to keep this obviously all up on the feet, and Chandler will be looking probably to take this onto the floor at times. He's a Division I All-American wrestler, so he ain't no scrub when it comes to wrestling. And I think that potentially could bring a path to victory for Chandler, but Hooker's got good takedown defense, and I think it's a real dangerous game if Chandler decides to get into a stand-up, back and forth slugfest with Hooker. I don't think that will work out very well for him, and it's just not a nice fight. And I think Hooker knows it as well. Like, he's saying how no one else would take the fight, but he would, because I think he knows that he can suck all of that hype that Michael Chandler's built up for himself over this last 6 months. He take it all for himself, and after that, go into this lightweight tournament semi-final against the Gaethje or Oliveira or McGregor or Poirier, and actually find himself right at the upper echelon of the lightweight division of the UFC. But I'm not going to write Michael Chandler off like I did before. He convinces me that he's actually going to be quite good when he talks all the time. The more and more I speak to him, the more I hear from him, I'm like, actually, maybe this guy's actually quite good and this guy's really elite. And actually, tomorrow night, he's given it, you know, Dan Hooker's given it like this is not going to be too difficult because, you know, this guy hasn't been in the UFC before and I fought all the best guys. But we'll see. But when you watch Hooker and you've seen him go to war with Poirier, he also had that great fight with Paul Felder. I think it's going to prove too much for Chandler tomorrow night. And so I'm going to take Hooker to win this by a TKO. But it wouldn't surprise me if Chandler wins it, but I think Hooker will take it.
I was waiting for someone to say echelon, you know. It's a very... the whole MMA community, for some reason, over the past month, I've heard the word echelon about 50 times. And yeah, Dan Hooker is at the top of the echelon of the division, as is Michael Chandler, you know.
Of the US, he's in the upper
off the tongue.
Yes.
Elite
echelon, that's it. No, it's good. I'm looking forward to it. Very, very much looking forward to it as well. And I hope it will be the perfect aperitif for the main course. You know, it'll be the perfect little mouth warmer to really get you into the main course. You know, but I see Hooker exactly as the two of you have said, man. I see Hooker working out the distances and stuff. Chandler's going to go in for some takedowns, as both of you have said, man. Hooker's got very good takedown defense as well. I see it going the full distance. I see it being a very, very close win for Dan Hooker, actually. I think he gets it 2-1 through the rounds. I think Chandler steals a round back, maybe controls him on the ground a little bit, you know, gets top control and just sits in it for quite a lot of the round and probably scores the round on on that thing. But I think it will be a 29-28 or a 29-27, 29-28. Sorry, but fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Obviously, there's a lot of other amazing fights on the card as well. We're going to do a little breakdown of all of them, just who we would pick personally throughout the whole card. I know we've had a little bit of a drama this morning, but we're going to get back onto that as well about what happened with the weigh-ins and stuff. But George, you're going to break down one of the fights for us, aren't you? You're breaking down the Everlov fight, I believe.
Yeah, Everlov against Nick Lentz. Yeah, on the early prelims. I think it's second fight of the night, so I'm going early. But yeah, no, it should be a great fight actually. Evloev is 13-0 in his career, and he's 3-0 in the UFC. All wins by unanimous decision. And this guy at featherweight is an absolute beast. I mean, so he's dangerous. He's a great wrestler out of Dagestan, classic, and he's been training in Sweden with some guy called Chimaev. So he's got some pedigree going on by the sounds of it. And yeah, I just think it's a stepping stone fight for him. Nick Lentz is coming towards the end. He's had 42 professional fights, Nick Lentz. Yeah, that's a lot.
Looking at his record here, he's 30-11-2. So he has been in the game for a very long time, as we know.
Yeah, and I think a young killer like Movsar Ilavev is gonna make light work of this guy. And so I think it will end up just being a unanimous decision yet again for him. He'll just cruise through this 3 rounds and moves on. But he's definitely a guy to watch out for. He's had a couple of fights fall off because of people who've had COVID or whatever, but he's got a fight now. And he's definitely someone to watch on the prelims, and he's definitely someone to watch out for going forwards this year. So Movsar Ilavev to beat Nick Lentz by a unanimous decision.
Nice, solid effort. Obviously, fighting a guy that is 30-11, it really could go either way, couldn't it? The experience of Lentz. Is it going to, we obviously over the past couple of fight cards that we've had to start the year, we've had a lot of upsets with the underdog really coming through and taking the wins. But I think it's going to be a good fight. And on the early prelims as well, it's there's only 2 fights on there: Amir Albazi versus. I'm not gonna destroy this guy's name, but and then you've got the Evolov fight and Lentz. But Nick Lentz is a big underdog in this fight as well. Big underdog. Who have you got? Who are you gonna break down for us, Prath?
So I decided. So originally, I really wanted to look over the Ottman Azaitar versus Nasrat Haqparast fight, and I was extremely excited to break that fight down. But unfortunately, Nasrat, I believe, couldn't make it to the scale for some reason or another. I don't know if that had come out before we had recorded this podcast. But that would have been a really, really good fight. I know Ottman Azaitar came off of the fight with Islam Makhachev, took him to the limit, and that's a very tough person, top of the lightweight division, Khabib training partner. So I was really looking forward to that. But with that being said, the other person that I can really look forward to is another UK fighter. We'll call it UK. Scotland's own Jojo Calderwood against Jessica Eye. And I really love Jojo Calderwood. I love her demeanor. I love her calm voice. And when she gets into the cage, she's an absolute killer. Just amazing Muay Thai, using elbows in those very, very close clinch positions. She's taken a couple of wins by just showing grit and determination, maybe losing an early round and then coming through and taking a win. So Calderwood at the moment is actually 2-2. She's coming off of a submission loss to Jennifer Maia, who obviously got dominated by Shevchenko. And I think that's going to be kind of the theme, unfortunately, with the 125 division. Is look, Calderwood is number 8 at the moment. Jessica is just a little bit underneath her as well. And I think either way, you're stepping into the fire of fighting an absolute destroyer, a berserker. And there's no way out. And I just think okay, look, you're going to get yourself up into that top echelon division. Hey, would you use the word echelon? And I'm really excited to see her in that top echelon division, because I do think she is going to be a tough test for all the other flyweights coming through who are looking to fight Valentina. I think Jojo is a good way of determining who is into that next level or not. Jessica Eye is also coming off of 2-2. She is 2 wins, 2 losses. One of those losses was that devastating head kick to Shevchenko as well. She looks to try and get back into that top ranking or win over Jojo Calderwood, I think really does some work for her. I think that's a really solid win. I know the other guys were telling me that she was coming off of some weight issues. She managed to hit her mark today at 126. So amazing to see her make weight, because I know that's always been a tough thing for her in that division, dropping down from 135 and fighting so often there and then coming down to 125. So I've always really had some hope with her being a top hitter in that division. But I think after watching that Valentina fight with her unfold and just seeing the way that Valentina has dispatched Chukagian and dispatched Jennifer Maia, man, I just don't think any of these guys, I mean, even though they're going to probably get elevated into a fight with Shevchenko, I mean, I don't want to see Shevchenko, unfortunately, take these ladies out one by one, because she's going to be standing like you see Amanda Nunes now, standing at the top of the jungle with no one else to fight. And I want to see her fight. I want to see Shevchenko fight because she's incredible to watch. But I think as it goes on here and as these other fighters make it to that top echelon of the division, they'll soon realize that they don't actually want to be there. Valentina is there and she is the boogeyman, or the boogie woman, as we would call her. And I'm just really excited. Look, I'm going to say I want Calderwood to win. I think Jessica Ai has a very grinding wrestling style, and she can hold her against the cage and make her work for that position. I think Jojo needs to show that she has got better clinch defense. She's got better opportunities to get off the cage and implement her Muay Thai style. That's what I want to see ultimately. And I remember watching a few of her Muay Thai fights before she came on The Ultimate Fighter, because I really wanted to get an idea of the ladies that were coming on. I wanted to see some of their Invicta fights and things like that. And I went back and watched some of her Muay Thai fights, and she was devastating. She was deadly. She was going in. She was knocking people out. And you don't see that often with women fights. She was able to do that. And I think somewhere along the line, she fell too in love with trying to knock people out and maybe not getting it, losing decisions, losing submissions. And I just want to see her come in and implement her game and come out with the win.
Nice, man. Nice. So you're going for Jojo Calderwood via decision?
Jojo Calderwood would probably take a decision here.
Yeah, nice, man. Nice. And obviously talking about the females in the MMA game at the moment, they're really good, you know. A lot of people give the women's MMA a lot of shit, and, you know, especially on these later cards, it'll be, you know, if there's a female fight on the main card, it'd be like, right, sleep for 20 minutes, wake up, watch the rest of the guys fight. But, you know, one of the ladies that I'm going to talk about, Amanda Ribas, she's awesome. You know, she's great on the camera. She's kind of cute. She's got a crazy little laugh. Her broken English is fantastic. Obviously, she's Brazilian, but she can bang, man. She can really fight and she can really throw down, you know. I've just got her stats up here. Her last win, obviously, over Paige Van Zandt, which was an armbar in the first round. Randa Marcos, Mackenzie Dern, Emily Whitmere. Like, she's got some great wins, and she's only been in the UFC for 4 fights, and she's got a fantastic record. I think it plays so much a part as well, being good at talking after the fights and being a bit of a character, especially in women's MMA, where the hardcore fans, the casual fans, are not really watching those fights as much. You know, back in the day, obviously, you had Ronda Rousey, Holly Holm, Amanda Nunes is obviously very, very well known as well. But these women need to be making a character for themselves to get noticed more. I know they shouldn't. It shouldn't work like that, but I feel like they do need to be kind of over extravagant and really go over the top to get kind of all eyes on me kind of thing. But I would love to see her, you know, she's obviously going to have a tough fight tomorrow against Marina Rodriguez, who's 12-1-2. So she's got a very, very good record as well coming into this. And I think it'll be a good fight. I hope I put a little tweet out the other day just saying Ribas is gonna sub her. I think she's very, very good on the ground as well. Ribas is. So I think Ribas goes in. Oh, sorry, Ribas. I need to get these pronunciations correct. You know, Ribas is going to come in and get the sub. I think within the distance, or it will be decision win. She's got very good hands as well, so I'm quite looking forward to watching them throw down. Obviously, we had some absolute craziness today with the weigh-ins. The people were going all over the place. I don't. What happened? We had people getting cut from the UFC. We had people. Oh, Prath, tell me, what did you see, man?
Oh man, crazy! One of the more crazier days in MMA weigh-in history. I've got to say, I can't remember one of last time. I think the last time I remember like there's so much commotion was when DC held the towel and on the weigh-in and stuff like that. I can't remember of any other time where it's had so much drama leading up to it. But I think the main story to take away here, obviously, I mentioned that the Nasrat Haqparast against Arman Sarukian fight was something that I was really looking forward to, and that was a victim of I don't know if it was an injury or just a general pullout. I don't think it was I don't know if that was something that was kind of brought up before we recorded this podcast, but I think the big thing that we should definitely talk about is Ottman Azaitar getting cut from the UFC in under bizarre circumstances.
I think his whole team got cut. As per the comment that Dana made to the guy from Adam Catterall from BT Sport, he said, we've cut him and his whole team. So any fighters that were potentially in the UFC are no longer in the UFC, man. It's crazy.
It's crazy, but it's warranted, man. It's warranted, and I think there's a few times where Dana White can get very emotional and can make decisions that maybe hurt him or make it really good decisions because of how emotional he is. And I think this is one of those times where, I mean, those guys could really have ruined that event completely. They could have cut that was them cutting the bubble out and them making really, really poor decisions. And I think one of the things I'd really like to look at is not just him himself, but the team that he has around him. Like, who's letting him make those decisions? If it's him making those decisions, all the people around him. One thing I wanted to touch on as well, and I don't know too much information about it. I think you'll know a little bit more if you follow the journalist Kareem Zidan, who writes for Bloody Elbow. He does a lot of pieces around the Russian fighters and things of this nature. And for me, I've always seen the Azaitar brothers pop up in these guys' articles, linking him to dangerous other people. So my mind wonders what was the reasoning. I feel like we'll never find out what was in that bag that was synonymously dropped off into the room. The guy climbed over 4 balconies to drop a bag into a room, get changed and get out, and then was apprehended by security, at which point he was carrying on running. And I just think this is the craziest circumstance I've ever seen. I think as well, like them cutting the wristbands off, like that's like career suicide. And I think someone around them should have said, what you're doing is career suicide. Know that. And if you do get caught, these are going to be the repercussions. And CCTV, I mean, look, we're in Abu Dhabi, we're in a bubble. They're providing all of the fighters with the most amazing hospitality. Do you not think they're going to also have the most top-notch CCTV in the bloody world as well? And I think it's so silly for them to think that no one's looking at these guys who are being put into this environment where they have to stay by themselves and not think maybe people are looking from the outside in as well. So really, really poor decision making, man. I'm really gutted as well. Me and George were talking and saying, like, man, it's just such a shame. Ottman Azaitar, who is on his way up, 2 KO wins in the UFC, 4 in his last 4 fights, even outside of the UFC as well, man. The guy was ready to have the rocket ship strapped to him, and now he's going to go to Bellator, he's going to go to ONE FC, he's going to go to PFL. I guess we'll see how that plays out. But man, I feel like he's definitely going to be one of those blacklisted guys from the UFC. And it's such a shame because he's such a talented guy. George, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say when it's only been like a few hours since it happened, but it's just totally reckless, isn't it? That's the thing. Like, the fact that since the Fight Island started, there's never been a positive case inside the bubble. Like, and that has been an unbelievable effort from Dana White. Like, no one inside has caught coronavirus. And for the first time that was broken, like, it was completely conceivable that he could ruin the whole of the UFC 257 event. I mean, the cost involved in that is astronomical, and so it's so reckless. He completely deserves to be cut from the UFC and his team. He needs to go away and get his priorities straight as to what he wants to do with his life. Does he want to be an elite level mixed martial artist, or does he not? And try and resurrect what is now a pretty tarnished career, unfortunately. That being said, if I was Scott Coker at Bellator, I'd be ringing him straight away. Because he is pretty good, and he would add a lot to that Bellator lightweight division. So, you know, I wouldn't say his career is completely over, but it leaves a dark mark. And it's such a shame because the guy is so good. The guy is really good. He's one of these guys, although he's 32 years old, he was set to become one hell of a prospect. Everyone was talking about him. You know, everyone was saying how this guy could be a real... He could over the next couple of years become a real dangerous contender in that division potentially. But it's reckless behaviour, it's ridiculous behaviour, it's idiotic behaviour, and I'm glad that Dana White and whoever else acted swiftly and just said, you know what, screw you, get out of the UFC and don't ever come back. As sad as that is, it's the right thing to do. So yeah, we'll never see him again. But there we go.
I don't see him going to any of these kind of bigger, smaller, kind of the secondary promotions. I don't see him going to one championship or anything like this. I think doing something as stupid as that would completely blacklist you from every other organization that's going to want to take you on, because you're always going to have that dark cloud above you of what were you trying to do? You know, why did you do that? If you're willing to sacrifice your own spot on the biggest stage, what else are you willing to sacrifice? Are you willing to sacrifice, you know, making weight? Are you willing to sacrifice even coming to a fight? You know, what else are you willing to do to ruin this whole thing for everyone else? You know, and it's very unusual to see in the UFC as well, because this is the pedigree. This is the absolute tip top. You know, in my opinion, and quite a lot of other people's opinions, this is the F1. Do you know what I mean? This is the full blown Big Daddy. You made it kind of shit. People just throwing away whole careers like that. It's just unbelievable, and I just don't understand the idiocy that can surround it. Obviously, maybe he's got his own reasons as to why he did what he did, but I think it's absolutely crazy, man. Absolutely crazy. If you're gonna do something above board, you're gonna have no problems. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure if he wanted whatever was in the bag and it was all above board and it was all legal, he would have just asked someone to get it through the door. You know, chuck it up to the balcony. No worries, mate. But to get someone to shimmy along 4 balconies, like you say, is just absolutely unbelievable. I can't believe it. But anyway, let's get on to tomorrow's fight card.
I feel like there are going to be I was just going to say that there are going to be there's going to be any number of questions until we find out what was in that bag. I feel like there's always going to be a question mark as to surrounding what happened there. Why was it so desperate that he needed to get it into his room? And I feel like that's always going to be a question that we're going to ask ourselves here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And obviously it was a good thing that Frivola obviously made weight and managed to get another fight as well, with a fighter that wasn't able to fight on the card. Obviously it's a little bit of a mix up. No one wanted to see a change of fighters. You know, within 24 hours, you spend a whole camp, 12 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, whatever it is, training for one specific person, one specific game plan. And then all of a sudden it gets completely changed overnight. But nevertheless, we have a good couple of fights on the card as well. So we're going to just run through them. Boys, if you just quickly want to give me your picks, tell me who you've got, and then we can go from there. So first card, we've got Amir Albazi, who is from London Shoot Fighters. So I have to go for him naturally because, you know, I'm not saying he's my best friend, but I know of him and we've been in the same place. Do you know what I mean? We've said hello to each other in a changing room, that kind of thing. So I'm going with Amir. Who else is, who have you got on the first card, the first fight? It's Zugmalov. No idea.
Oh, for the first fight for myself, I definitely Zumagulov. That was my attempt at his name, but I am going to go with Amir Albazi, British. You know, fighting out of a British camp. Obviously, we want to see our own do well. Let's go, Amir.
Let's go. George.
Yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet. Albazi. The other guy, who I won't butcher his name, I did read earlier on that he trains with my guy, the Kazakh killer Shavkat Rakhmonov.
He does, yeah. So I was looking at that. Maybe he's Kazakhstani.
Maybe he's not to be written off, but I will be going with Amir Albazi to win this.
Nice. And then obviously next we've got Movsar Envolov versus Nick Lentz. Naturally, George, you're going to go with Envolov. Prath, who you got, man?
I will take the other gentleman then. I'll take Nick Lentz because I think veterans will often. I think the experience of Nick Lentz plays a difference here, and I think, you know, for over 40 fights, I feel like even if he does get damaged early, he'll be able to rebound and maybe win a decision or get a submission.
Nice.
The other quick one as well about this fight is Evloev wasn't due to fight Nick Lentz. It was meant to be Mike Grundy. Mm-hmm. He's taken this fight on notice as well, so that could end up being a disadvantage to him potentially. So that could be the reason why Nick Lentz ends up winning this, maybe.
Don't make excuses, George, right? If he loses, he loses. That's it. You need to be ready to fight anyone at any given day. Obviously, the first fight on the prelims, we've got Khalil Roundtree versus Marcin Pracino. Who have you boys got? Prath, who you got?
I really like Khalil Roundtree Jr. I think his overall vibe as a fighter is one that really resonates with me. I've listened to a lot of his. I've always really aligned with Khalil Roundtree whenever I've listened to his interviews. I feel like he's got a very interesting perspective when it comes to MMA, and really interesting to see, his evolution as a Muay Thai fighter, Muay Thai based fighter. So interested to see what kind of leaps and bounds he's made since his last fight, and yeah, Khalil Roundtree Jr. maybe by KO in the second round, let's say.
Nice, George.
I'll go. Khalil Roundtree. Keep it short and sweet. I think this other guy hasn't got a very good record as far as I can remember. So yeah, I'll take Khalil Roundtree in this.
Yeah, Khalil Roundtree Jr. is also a -350 favorite as well, which is quite big. And the bookies have been getting really fucking good at their betting recently. And then we've got Juliana Pena versus Sarah McMahon. George, tell me.
Christ, that's not an easy one to go with. I'll go with Juliana Pena to win this.
Pena. Come on, man. Get the accent right, Praf, who you got, man?
Juliana.
Oh, well, I've got Juliana Pena in this one, and I've yes, I went there. I got her by submission. I think it was like she's got great submissions from top position, from being off of her back. I feel like Sarah McMahon will be able to take her down, but I feel like Juliana will be very good off of her back.
Nice. I've got McMahon by decision on that one, so I'm going to go against both of you, and we'll see how it goes. And then another fight I'm actually quite looking forward to that we didn't speak about is Brad Tavares versus Antonio Carlos Jr., which I think will be quite a good banger as well. If my memory serves me right, Brad Tavares is a good man out there, no?
Yeah. Brad Tavares has always been kind of fringe top 15, top 10. It'll be interesting to see how he does stylistically against Antonio Carlos Jr., who's a amazing black belt, very credentialed, fights out of American Top Team. And so I feel like those guys will kind of implement the typical American Top Team style of fighting, which is to take down and to submit.
That's it. George, who you got, man?
I'm going to go with Antonio Carlos Jr.
Nice. Why not? And then obviously we've got the featured bout on the prelims is Ottman Azaitar. I'm going to go with that versus Matt Favola. Obviously, this wasn't booked until a couple of hours ago. So who you got on that, Prath?
I really like Ottman Azaitar. I think he was able to. I'm not trying to correct you, but that's just the way it's said.
Cool, man. Don't worry about
it. I really like his wrestling style. I think he has good striking. I rewatched the Makhachev fight this morning, and I just thought he was able. I feel like for someone that's able to hang in with someone who's so credentialed, so elite, so top echelon, I feel like he's really going to make movements here in that lightweight division. So I'm really interested to see. And I actually I was going to pick him over Nasrat Haqparast, who I think is an incredible fighter, and I give him a lot of props. Tsarukyan looks like a destroyer, so I'm going to go with Tsarukyan.
Nice. George, tell me.
I like Tsarukyan as well, but I'm going to go for the steamroller. I'm going to go for Favola to win this. I think Ottman had a pretty tough weight cut by the looks of it. He missed weight, and perhaps that's not going to stand him in good stead. So I'm going to go with Favola to win this.
Yeah, I mean, Favola's already won because he's got 20% of his purse as well, right? So happy fucking
days.
It
should be more, by the way. It should be more. People who miscut should lose more of their purse. I will always say this. It's a disgrace. If you can't make weight, fuck off.
Yeah, well, harsh words there. Obviously, then we got the first fight on the main card: Amanda Ribas versus Marina Rodriguez. Naturally, I'm going with Ribas because I think she's kind of cute and she's got a funny laugh. Tell me, Prath, who you got, man?
Amazing translatable skills in the octagon. She has great submissions as well. I think Marina Rodriguez has got some great stand-up. I think it's going to be one of those style clashes fights. I'm really excited, actually. I think Amanda Ribas is someone that they're looking like they're going to strap the rocket to. I think she is definitely one of those people that is very marketable, shall we say is the word, marketable.
Definitely.
And so so let's hope that this is kind of a given fight for her. But I'll go with Marina Rodriguez by TKO.
Oh, nice. George, tell me.
Amanda Hebas is going to win this. She's also going to be a future UFC champion, and I reckon she'll fight Zhang Weili by the end of this year. So she's going to win tomorrow night.
Yeah, another thing we didn't speak about. I think her last fight was actually at 125, whereas now she weighed on the scales today at 116. So she's obviously moving down a weight category to take this bout. And then we've got Andrew Sanchez versus Muradov. George, who you got?
I'm going for Muradov. I haven't seen much of these guys, but I saw that guy on the scales earlier, and I was like, "What the fuck is this guy? He looks like a monster." So I'm going to take Muradov to knock Sanchez out.
Nice, Prath, tell me.
I like that. I remember Andrew Sanchez being off of one of the Ultimate Fighters. I want to say it was the Joanna Gadelia season, maybe. Grinding wrestler. I did also have that same realization when I looked on the scales earlier. I was like, I don't know who this gentleman is, but he looks like a killer. So I am also going to go with Muradov.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the same guy, man. I'm not going to try and correct your words either, man. Like we said, and we've said before, there's a lot of names coming into the UFC at the moment, which they're tongue twisters. You know, fair play to the commentators, Joe Anik, DC, Paul Felder, and stuff like that. They really smashed the names. And then we've got Jessica I versus Joanne Calderwood. Obviously, Prath, you're going for I, no? Or are you going for Calderwood?
I'm going for Calderwood. By decision.
Nice. George?
Calderwood as well. But
You'll be asleep. You'll be asleep for that fight anyway, mate. You don't care, do you?
No. No. I'm fully in on the main card. I will be awake. I promise you. I will be awake. I'm going to see Ribas win. I'm going to see this Muradov geezer smash Sanchez. Then I'm going to see Joe Calderwood beat I, and then we'll move on to Hooker Chandler in a second.
And that's it. And we've obviously already done our picks of the co-main and the main event anyway. So
let's go for it again. Hooker's going to beat Chandler, and the notorious one is going to beat Dustin Poirier. So let's not mess around anymore. All right, Conor McGregor's winning tomorrow night.
There you go. I've got Hooker and Conor McGregor. Prath, you've obviously got Hooker and Dustin, right?
El Diamante, man. El Diamante all day.
That's it. Nice one.
Hot sauce over whiskey all day.
Well, why not hot sauce and whiskey? Do both, man. Put some hot sauce in the whiskey. Just go insane. Do some magic. Right. Well, I'm going to be speaking to the two of you tomorrow night anyway, while we're watching the fights. I will be paying for my pay-per-view because I don't want Dana to pop through the fucking screen or bust through my windows or some shit, man. But yeah, I'll be watching the fights. I'll be talking to you lovely gentlemen watching the fights as well. George will give you a bell about 1 o'clock. Make sure you're up, mate. And thank you very much for joining us on the Fight and Talk 2 podcast. We'll be doing a post-fight where we can all laugh at George for his picks. And we can go from there, man. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. And we will see you on Sunday for the post-fight. Thank you very much.